I mean, seriously, kids. It's like 10:30 at night. Go to sleep. You young whippersnappers.
Get off my lawn. Welcome to My Hill to Die On, Episode 8.
Everyone has things that they're passionate about.
Things we want our friends to try and experience.
So we've convinced each other to try different things.
And we talk about these experiences to see if we can get just one more person
to join us on our hill to die on. I got a couple of stories about Christmas presents.
Okay.
So I've had a lot of good Christmases growing up. My family's never been overly wealthy. My family work for a church, and so it tends to be we're not poor, but we're not wealthy. So we basically, I've lived my life saving up and living frugally to get myself and get each other nice things at special occasions. That being said, I also have the express pleasure of having a birthday that is usually about a week and a half after Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
So I tend to have a lot of experiences where those things kind of got bundled together. Not that I'm complaining at all, because as I got to a wiser mindset, I figured out the best way to use that to my advantage. I tended to start to ask for things that I could combine the birthday and Christmas present together and get something a little bit nicer than, say, what other people in my family would be getting for Christmas alone. So I remember a couple of Christmases I had where usually it was around a new system coming out, whether it was the PlayStation 2, that sort of stuff. Those are probably the ones that I remember the most, where my brother and I would get together and say, we really want this system, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to combine our Christmas presents together, ask Mom and Dad for a PlayStation for Christmas, and then I would also be able to bundle a game with that for my birthday as well. And so me and my brother would get the PlayStation. We would probably both get a game that was not the most expensive game at the time. And then I would also, because it was my birthday right around the corner, also get another game that was usually a nicer game at that time. So that was a lot of what I did growing up. But one of the most memorable stories I have of Christmas, I would say, would be me and my family were not big on surprises. Many times we will create a numbered list and say 1, 2, 3, get me one of these things, and that is what I want. I mean, I even do that now, like when I call my parents next time before I go home for Christmas here, because I go home for Christmas every year, I will probably come straight out and ask, what do you want? Because I don't play these guessing games. I'm not good at that. Because I've done things where I've gotten something that I think they want, and I've been wrong. And I'd much rather get them something they want. Or something they can use. Or a gift card. Anyway, so one year, I had my list, 1, 2, 3, of things that I wanted. And I happened to be sitting at the computer one day doing my homework, and I saw a pile of papers, and for some reason was just flipping through them while I was waiting for the dial-up to finish loading the page, because that's what you do. And I happened upon the printed out receipt from my parents when they had printed the receipt of what they had bought me. Now, this was the number one thing that I wanted on my list, but I felt super guilty about it and went around in a funk, and then finally went up and told my parents that I had gone through and found out what my Christmas present was, and I was so upset about it. And they were just worried that I was just not happy with the present, but the entire time I just felt guilty because I had cheated Christmas. Now, keep in mind, I was a young kid at the time, but So that was like one of those really memorable stories, is me like just going up to my parents and confessing that I had just cheated Christmas.
Mm.
Now, I was super happy with the gift because it was back in the PlayStation 1 era, and it was a combo of a bunch of the older Final Fantasy games that they put on one disc, and I was just super happy about that.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that would be good.
Oh yeah, to this day, one of the games on that disc that they got me is still, and I will claim this, my favorite Final Fantasy that I have ever played.
But not 7.
It wasn't 7. 7 is actually number 2 in my book.
Oh, you said 5,
6.
6? Okay. Yeah, you said 5 through 10 were your favorites, right?
Yes, 5 through 10 is my favorites. 6 is number 1. 7 is number 2.
Okay.
After that, it gets a little I-my.
Mm-mm-mm.
All right, so I've told you a couple of my Christmas stories. Your turn.
I think one of the ones that sticks out well in my head anyway. My parents at one point, and we usually got a few gifts every year. I was always surprised, I guess, maybe at how many gifts we got, because I think we were not exceptionally wealthy either, but I was always kind of surprised at how many gifts my parents got us. And one year I think it was a good number. Like it was 5, 6, 7, something like that, Star Trek figures in a row. And I think that one stood out strong in my memory, because I was pretty excited about that, to all of a sudden have that many more Star Trek figures in a row together to play with. And my brother got something also related, I think. So it was a pretty good Christmas because I think we could play together. I'm not exactly remembering that one for sure. But anyway, I know that I played with my brother with these Star Trek figures. We shared them and we played together. I think he might have gotten some other characters. He liked Worf and the tougher aliens. So I think he might have gotten those, and I had more of the Starfleet figures. But it was fun. We would play together with those. My grandmother used to get grapefruit in big boxes, and I had taken one of those boxes and I had painted the inside silver, because I think my dad had like a can of silver spray paint. So I had painted the whole inside of the box silver, and I made a shuttlecraft diorama set that I could play in, because I also had the shuttlecraft, the action figures could fit inside. So that was quite fun. Sorry, mine's a bit shorter. Well, I have the worst memory too. Like, I can't remember as much as I want to remember.
See, I think part of it is also, like, Christmas traditions were big in my family. I mean, every Christmas, it's basically the same thing, but it's something that I love, and why I always love going back home for Christmas, back to the States, is we get together, we always have, it's either coffee cake or it's cinnamon rolls. Every single Christmas morning, we sit around and we hand each other our presents, and basically we take turns opening one present at a time. It's a whole event.
One of our biggest traditions we had was we would go to my grandparents' house on Christmas Eve and open up presents with my grandparents, their children, and their grandchildren. So my father's parents, because they had 6 children, sometimes it'd be a pretty big evening, especially if I had 2 sets of uncles and aunts who lived out of country. So if they came back to America, it would be pretty big. One uncle and aunt lived further away, like 6 hours. So sometimes they'd come, sometimes they didn't. But for sure, the 3 children would be there with their kids. And even with that, there was a fairly large number. And then we would have Christmas Day with ourselves. And then sometimes, well, when I was younger, we would go to my mother's side. It would be my mom's aunt's house. And she trained show dogs. So it was always quite interesting to see the amount of dogs she had in her back room.
I can only imagine.
Mm-hmm. Very hairy dogs, because they were all groomed.
Well, you gotta look pretty when you're going out for a show. For the Ryan Game Corner of this week, I am mostly still playing The Outer Worlds, same as last time. However, I've also been playing another game. How to tell this story? Okay, so there is a game that just arrived here that I had pre-ordered about a year ago. And I pre-ordered this game because I had played the previous 2 games.
Okay.
Basically what it was is it's a series of games that is released in Japan. And I played games 1 and 2 before I came and worked here in Japan. Then, that year I came out, I went to Tokyo Game Show, and they announced number 3 was coming out. Ooh, yay. It came out in Japan the very following year. It has just now been released in English.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So a whole year and a half later, maybe?
It's been about 2 years past the Japanese release. So, what I've been doing is I pulled out my old copies of 1 and 2, and because I already have my save files there, I'm basically playing through a quick game of New Game Plus, which allows you to take all of your stats and everything and bring it over into a new game.
Oh, okay.
So it allows you to go through the story a lot quicker with everything that you've already done, so you can basically steamroll most of the enemies throughout the game.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm playing through those all over again, simply so I can play this new game, which has arrived now. I should probably mention the title.
Yeah, I was waiting. Mm-hmm.
So the title of the game series is The Legend of Heroes series. The Legend of Heroes series has spanned for like 20-odd games. I might be over-exaggerating or under-exaggerating. I'm not sure which at this point. But they break it into basically sub-sagas. And this one that I'm specifically talking about is The Legend of Heroes, The Trail of Cold Steel.
Okay.
So the games that I have already played are The Legend of Heroes, Trails of Cold Steel 1, The Legend of Heroes, Trails of Cold Steel 2, and The Legend of Heroes, Trails of Cold Steel 3 just arrived. Which I will probably, knowing me and my timing, I will probably get through my playthroughs of the first 2 games again right before I leave for Christmas break. So I will probably have to wait until I get back in Japan before I play the new game.
Wow.
But that's the plan. So the basic storyline is you take the role of a student at a military school, and you follow their story, basically, through this tumultuous time in their country. One of the reasons why I really like this series, however, is, first of all, it is a turn-based RPG. So very much, when you get in a battle, everybody, very strategic, you can plan out what you do. But one of the reasons I love this game is because of the story. It is one of those epic, long stories. And not only that, it also has a very living world. And what I mean by that is the game takes place over a series of months in just one of these games. And at the beginning of the game, you can talk to all of the NPCs and they'll say something. Usually you're like, oh, that's nice. But every month that passes, the NPC changes what they say. And so, a minor spoiler, for example, at the beginning of the game, you will talk to this one family who kind of are bickering a little bit at each other, but they get along. A month passes, and you see that the tension between the husband and wife in this family is getting bigger. And a month passes, and it's getting to the point where they're openly fighting. And a month passes, and basically it looks like they're going to break up this marriage. And then there is a side quest that you can basically get involved in their family through their son and save the marriage. And so it's very interesting because every character is developed in that way, where they all have some story. Sure, it might be something silly, like, I want to be a fashion designer. And they have their own arc throughout the story that goes on in the background. But if you talk to them, you actually get to see how this thing evolves throughout the games. And most of the game takes place in this one university town kind of feel. So you get to see how they evolve throughout the game. Well, Game 2 rolls by, and you can talk to a lot of the same NPCs and see what's happened. And that one spans the next, couple of months into a year after that first game. And so you get to see where all these things go. And so I think for me, the reason why I really like this series and I really like this game is, first of all, there's the epic storyline that you're following of like saving the world, getting involved, the various countries fighting over each other. But then there's all these backstories that are happening at the same time with this living, breathing world. And I think that's why the series just resonates so much with me, because they've done some amazing work with their world building. So, the Legend of Heroes games in general are great games. There's been a lot of them over the years, but the current series is The Trail of Cold Steel, which 1, 2, and 3 have now been officially released in English. And number 4 will come eventually, and that's the last one in that series.
Yeah, I was noticing that the website says that, well, it's going to be released. Well, it was released in Japan in 2018,
Yeah, number 4 was.
but not in English yet.
Nope.
And it does look like it's about an average of 2 years to translate. I'm assuming that because of all the backstories, it takes a longer time to translate all this.
Oh yeah, because basically they are translating the equivalent of like a Lord of the Rings novel.
Oh, and it's the same publisher of the Yeast series, huh?
Exactly. So, that is the game that I am currently playing alongside Outer Worlds, like I mentioned last time.
Oh, some of these Legends of Heroes games haven't even been translated into English.
Oh no. The ones that really started making headway over here started really with the Trails in the Sky series. Before that, they didn't get a lot of notoriety. So it's been a journey. What can I say? As a young boy who liked the style of Japanese RPGs and the way that they told stories, there were a lot of games I missed out on simply because I could not read. I couldn't read kanji. Real life struggles right there. Real life struggles.
Need to learn to read more Japanese. You and me both. Who's thirsty?
I could use a drink. I'm a bit parched. So this week, I get to show you exactly how horrible a human being I am. Because I got to pick the drink this week. And the drink that I picked, I saw in the store, there was a Japan Special Pepsi.
Well, and I've seen this Japan Special Pepsi before, too. And actually, the Alco I was in today did have Japan Special, but not this flavor. But I'm wondering, does Japan Special mean here the dreaded 0 calorie that I'm looking at on this one, too? Yet another reason that's making this drink skeptical to me.
So, yes, this Japan Special drink was at my local Seiyu, which is owned by Walmart, for those of you who don't know that store. So it's basically Japan's Walmart. And this drink is the Japan Special 0 calorie ume flavored Pepsi.
Ume being plum in English, right?
Yes, ume is plum. So it is a Japan Special plum flavored 0 calorie Pepsi. And this is why I say I get to show exactly how horrible a human being I am. Because of all the drinks in the store, I said, no, I'm going to make Nate drink this one.
Well, one of the interesting things, I do like this about Japan. When you say that you have a fruit involved in your drink, they have to put a little, like, how much percentage of fruit is in the drink. And of course, you know, our beloved CC Lemon is only like 1 or 2%. Like, it's not much. Like, yeah, they're putting a lot of other stuff in that drink too. We just overlook that because it's CC Lemon, of course.
Of course.
But this one, proudly printed at the bottom, is no fruit juice at all.
Well, it also says ume flavor.
Yes, it does. It does. It says plum flavoring. Well, yeah, plum flavor.
Yeah, it's not plum. It's plum flavor.
Oh, I was complaining about this earlier. This is one of those drinks that's only 490 milliliters.
Oh, yes, instead of the full 500 milliliters.
Yep, they're skimping out, saving 10 milliliters.
Again, let's be fair. They're not saving that much money because most of the money goes into the bottle itself, not whatever you're putting in your body.
Alrighty, should we try this out?
Yes, I'm already regretting this. Wow, that's a smell. Oh, wait for the aftertaste. Just wait for it.
Ooh, yeah. It's like a sour plum.
Yeah, it's not even like a plum.
Although I wonder if that's the 0-calorie flavor making that plum taste extra sour. Boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the plum and the 0-calorie don't mix.
I'm gonna be fair and say I'm not finishing this one today. Because they made some choices there, and none of them I am in favor of.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm in favor of the 0-calorie flavor in general. I definitely drink the non-diet drinks.
Unfortunately, they had no full calorie versions of the ume flavor.
Yeah, no, I don't think they did either. I think you're probably right. They're only punishing those others.
Punishing. That's a very apt description of what I just put in my body, yes.
Yeah, I do think that Pepsi does have a few special flavors every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Forever ago, man, this must have been just after I got married, between 10 and 13 years ago, I guess. We tried shiso flavored Pepsi.
Okay.
And that was quite interesting. And it was very green. Shiso is a pungent leaf in Japan. And the shiso flavored Pepsi was very green and very weird.
Well, I can say with full confidence, when I was in the store and trying to decide what I was going to bring to the podcast this week, it was between this and ice cream party Kit Kats. I should have chosen the Kit Kats.
Maybe. Did you notice on the bottle here?
Yeah?
I didn't see this until just now, actually, and I've been looking at this bottle because I took a picture of it earlier today. The red sun of Japan is part of the Pepsi symbol.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that until just now.
Oh.
That's a neat way to blend that together.
Yeah.
Part of the Pepsi symbol has become part of the red sun of Japan.
Yeah, that's interesting. They're not winning any points with it for me, but...
No.
Because, I mean, based solely on what's in the bottle is the problem.
This ume flavor, is this more like the umeboshi kind of flavor than ume?
I think it's more umeboshi than ume.
Because, oh my goodness, it's horrible.
Yes!
And I've had umeboshi in the past, and I've not enjoyed it.
Oh, see, I like regular umeboshi.
How do you describe it? It's fermented plum?
It's pickled. It's pickled plum.
Pickled plum.
You know, the type of pickled plums that Peter Piper picked.
How can you pick plums that are already pickled anyway?
But a pickled plum, I like it, especially if you put it in rice. So, like, umeboshi onigiri is kind of my go-to.
Yeah, my wife and daughter like it.
Oh yeah, it's a nice tart, sour flavor that is like the condensed flavor of plums in one bite-sized portion. So it's super sour and super tart, and it gives you all that flavor at once. That's basically how I would describe it. You get it in onigiri, and that's the place that it belongs. The only other place that I have seen it that works is in okayu, which is, for those of you who don't know, is basically a porridge that people only bring out when people are sick. I'm not a fan of okayu at all. And it is solely because the first time I lived in Japan for a significant period of time, I had the flu for like a week. And I was at a Japanese school at the time. Mm-hmm. And they decided that what we all needed was to have okayu 3 times a day and nothing but okayu until we got out of our quarantine. Because yes, the college did quarantine us. So for the 7 days that I was quarantined, I had okayu for 3 meals a day.
Even on the days that you were healthy enough but just couldn't leave the quarantine?
Oh yeah. I just got sick of that stuff so quickly. Because Okayu is basically if you take rice, you add extra water, and you just keep boiling it until it becomes snot consistency.
Yeah.
Am I describing this about right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I will be honest. I may have snuck out. I may have snuck out of my quarantine one night.
For some karaage?
Actually, I believe I had katsudon. Because, that's what you need. Of the drinks that we've had so far, I think I have to put this below all of them.
Yeah, I think so too. Mm-hmm.
I mean, even below Honey CC Lemon.
Yeah.
And I wasn't a huge fan of that one.
Yeah, because it ruined a perfectly good CC Lemon.
Yeah, how dare they? I think it comes down to the fact that both of those are more flavoring than anything else. CC Lemon's not really much besides flavoring in the first place, but...
Well, I think we'll be able to find some good ones again in the future.
Oh, yeah.
For our media today, we wanted to go back to the format where we're trying to sell each other on something that one of us likes and the other one hasn't had a chance to experience yet. And I found out last week that Ryan hadn't yet seen Edge of Tomorrow. And this being one of my favorite movies of all time, I was like, okay, we got to watch this then. So I forced Ryan to watch this movie.
Now, to be completely fair, you weren't really twisting my arm there.
No.
It was one of those movies that I was always generally interested in, but never got around to watching. If you have not watched Edge of Tomorrow, at this point, you should probably turn off the podcast, leave us, go watch it, and then come back and join us then. Because we might spoil some things. And by some things, we mean all of the things.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and by the way, I have a tip for this. If you use Overcast like we do, what I do is I have a playlist called Movies. So generally what I'll do is I'll listen to the first half of the episode. When it gets to this point and you want to watch the movie and come back, I add this particular episode to my Movies playlist. And then when I get around to watching the movie, I come back and listen to it at that time. And that works really well for me. I don't know. Do you do the same thing, Ryan?
Generally, I will just look around for the movies I've already watched. And once I have watched them, just search through and find it again. I tend to not make playlists simply because then I find myself spending more time organizing my playlist than actually listening to anything. I just generally have a problem with organizing things. Once I start making spreadsheets or playlists and things like that, I do that almost too much. I'd rather not admit how much time I've spent on organizing spreadsheets of my movies and my games and so on and so forth.
Well, anyway, in my rewatch of the movie this week, I sat down and think, why did I really like this movie? And I think that I really liked this movie because, well, let me ask you the straightforward question. Did you enjoy the movie?
Yes, I really liked the movie. I thought it was an excellent movie.
Good, because I think one of the things I was afraid of was that I realized that I liked this movie because I am a number 1 on the Enneagram. The Enneagram, it's a personality test. The number 1 N on the Enneagram means that I am somebody who likes to see things in the right order, right? I like to work on something till it's perfect often. And this movie gives the main character the ability to work on something until it's very perfect. So I was like, oh, I want to be in this situation like nothing else, right?
Really? I can imagine the problem of being shot in the head every single time.
Yeah, I'm sure that's not fun. But the montage where he's going through the battle plans of trying to get off that field, quite interesting. Although I keep asking the question, why do they wait till that day to get off the field? Why don't they just take a chopper and leave earlier? But, okay, that's a plot hole.
We'll address that later. Oh, and we should probably mention, this is a movie that is based on a book.
Yeah.
And neither of us have actually read the book yet.
No, I do want to, but I just haven't had a chance to read it yet.
Yeah, and so, I mean, some of these plot holes we might run into might be covered by the book.
Mm-hmm. I'm very pleased you liked it, because I was afraid that because I realized that I liked it because it fit my personality type, that it wouldn't necessarily fit other personality types very well. Then all of a sudden I got scared of recommending it. It's like, oh my goodness, I like this because I'm a number one. Are other people going to like this too? But
Well, if you were going to talk about the Enneagram, I should at least mention that I have also taken this test and I ended up as a number 4. So take that with what you will, which is not the one who wants to perfect something over and over again.
no.
But still, I mean, I thought there was a lot of really cool things about this world that they've built. I like the idea of time loops.
I did like how it was slightly futuristic, right?
Yeah,
It wasn't today. Nobody's walking around with cell phones in their hands, though, which is kind of nice.
but it was slightly futuristic. Anyway, my overview is generally I really liked it. I thought it was an excellent movie. There were a couple of things that were a little not bad things, but things that I would be I'm not a fan of this choice that they make. It was definitely a little hand wavy on how it all works, but I mean, I still really enjoyed it. In general, I liked the movie as a whole. There was a lot of really interesting things in the story. Actually, the thing that stuck out to me the most with his dying and repeating the entire time is the expression he had on his face when he realized that he was basically watching this woman that he was growing more and more attached to die over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I think that would be the hardest thing about being in that situation, for me at least, is watching the people who I genuinely care about and watching them suffer over and over again and being unable to escape that loop.
Mm-hmm. This is one of the things that I struggle with. I mean, again, I really like the movie, and I don't know what the book has, but I do kind of wish they had a little better way of how he controls it, instead of just through blood. I wish it was a little stronger somehow, and I don't know how they could have made that stronger, but how is blood controlling time? I guess that's one of my questions.
Well, I think it had to do with the fact that when he originally got exposed to the blood, it seemed to be invading him. And so how I almost see it is the fact that the blood almost was a parasite on him.
Okay, and then when he reset, then when he died, just as if when an alpha dies, that resets the day.
Yeah.
When he died, that resets the day.
Yeah.
Okay, and that explains a little bit more of the ending, which we'll get to later too.
Yeah, but that's at least how I was seeing it. I mean, that might not be how it was originally intended, but...
Because the blood entered another living thing when it was being expelled from the original alpha.
Exactly.
Okay, I see that a little better. I think it's weak, but...
Oh, yeah, but it's how I saw it. I would like to see how the book reads. And I think that might be another show.
I mean, it was interesting to see his character change. I mean, this is Tom Cruise, so you know that since he was beginning the movie not being skilled at anything, he's obviously going to leave the movie being skilled at everything.
Of course.
Because it's Tom Cruise, and he jumps out of planes for fun. So it was fun watching his struggle of, I just want to get out of the loop, then learning that he can be the weapon, and then fully go on board with that part of the movie too. I did like the plot twist that the visions that he had were leading him into a trap. I enjoyed that plot twist. The Omega knows that it's not in control of the day, so it's going to lead him to a place where the Alpha can kill him, or, drain his blood and get it back.
Yeah.
That is an interesting thing. I found it hilarious how quick she was to kill him when she realized that he's in the loop, right? I mean, of course, she has to believe him.
Oh, yeah.
And because she knows exactly what's going on, but of course, she realizes that, he's hurt, we'll just kill him and start again.
Yeah.
Of course, except for the only time where it would have been best to kill him and start again is right after he knows where the Omega actually is. She should have run that car she was driving right into a pillar right at that moment, or something.
Oh, I was totally expecting that the moment he goes, I know where it is, she just pulls out a gun and shoots him.
Exactly. So it had a whole lot more suspense at that moment, which again makes the movie more exciting. So
yeah, because if he still is able to just keep coming back, then,
Right, then he could just keep trying to kill the Omega over and over and over again.
Exactly.
Which then the Omega wouldn't learn from that, right? He's the only one learning from the days at this point.
I believe at that point, yes.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah, I am wondering if, based on that idea, is there only one alpha at a time?
I was wondering that too. My guess was that there is only one alpha. Because we never saw two together, and that alpha is just going where the Omega wants it to go.
Yeah.
It was on the field at that one point, and then it was in that dam in Germany, and then it was in Paris.
Now I'm just going to say this. If you were an ever-learning, super intelligent alien that is able to turn back time, why would you send the one thing that can give your enemy the same power onto a massive battlefield?
Yeah, I'm wondering that too. Oh, because then it could... Actually, you want it to go there so that it dies. So that it can reset. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Because the alpha is the one that's resetting the day. So you want the alpha on the field to die, but you don't expect it to be transferring its power.
Yeah, because I guess that is a rarity. Because it has to be killed and get the blood into a human within a certain amount of time.
Right.
Before the time resets.
How did you feel about the design of the aliens?
I thought it was very interesting.
I think it was interesting that only the alphas had eyes, right?
Yeah, everything seemed to be as if it was like a being built out of roots. Like vines or roots is what most of them looked like. And then the only one that was different from that was the alpha.
Right.
Or, well, the alpha and the omega, because the omega was basically, if we're going to go with the root example and the root parallel, it's almost as if it was a bud.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then the alpha was just one of those things, but with a face. Because it felt like they were made out of vines or roots, it did feel like they could change their shape really well, but they did, I think, for something that seemed to be able to change its shape, it seemed to have a static shape a lot. I think if I were a super powerful alien race, because, the things you have to say to yourself, if I were a super powerful alien race, I would probably have a little bit more of a mutable shape. Because that way they don't know where to hit you.
One of the interesting things, too, is how they decide to wake up, right? Like, it does seem like they reacted to engine things, like when the chopper starts or when cars start, then they'll come and attack you. But they're not attacking them if they're just walking around?
I think it's loud sounds. Because if they're walking or talking, that's one thing. But an engine sound, especially one of a helicopter, is really loud.
So they'll wake up and take notice and come attack at that.
Yeah, because I think it comes down to how loud is the sound.
Mm-hmm. And I thought it was quite interesting that the mimics, they're just like the killing machines, right? They're the worker bees. No real brain. So that's why they would just keep killing Tom Cruise without feeling. Like, they don't know who he is. They don't see him as the alpha in this situation. They're just going to keep killing him. Except for the time when he's in the German bunker, because they know that is the alpha, because that's the only person that would go there. So then they've told the mimic not to kill him, but just to hold him there. That was just an interesting behavior of that mimic.
Yeah.
They do talk about how this is a very interesting world-conquering device, and I do like that they're almost saying that it is a... oh, goodness, what's it called? When you take a planet and you transform it.
Terraform?
Yes, that it is a terraforming device, right? And so that the aliens that are coming afterward probably don't even look like this, that this is just the machine they use to terraform the world.
Also, I do have to, again, probably something that comes up in the books, I wonder why they called them mimics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was wondering that too.
Because they're not mimicking anything.
Mm-hmm.
It is an interesting creature, the mimic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at a bunch of pictures of them and I'm just going, yeah, I don't know. One thing that I would say was very interesting is there are a couple of parallels that I ended up drawing to other pieces of media that I've played and or watched.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, There is an anime that I've watched before called Steins Gate. And spoilers for that, for those of you who have not seen it, that one has a lot to do with time travel. And in that story, they basically happen upon a way to send messages back in time and change the past. Well, the reason I bring this up is at one point in the story, one of the main characters dies. And the main character actually sends a message back in time to try to save this person. And she dies again. And then so he sends a message back and tries to save her, and she dies again. And he keeps repeating this over and over and over again. So there's this period where he's constantly trying to save her, and she's constantly dying. And so I just see that parallel, especially in the scene where nothing's being said about the helicopter, but you know that they've done that helicopter scene so many times that he's just like, I really wanted him just to give a number there, like, this is the 400th time I've tried this or something.
Yeah. I liked how they never said, but it's always like, he's done this many times.
Oh, yeah. One of the things that I do want to point out about this movie that I just... all the ways that, like, when he's learning the paths the first time... like, the first time where he realizes he can get everybody to stop and do push-ups, and then he tries to roll underneath the truck, and you just hear him, like, yelp.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. One of the most interesting things about that is that the day continues for a second. So every once in a while, you see the day continue after he died a little bit.
Well, maybe he didn't die right away there.
That's true, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, maybe he was, like, dying, but not quite dead yet.
Yeah, Bill Paxton in this is great, right? And his reaction to that is amazing. But yeah, he is great in this movie. The role that he plays, he does very well, I think.
Now, I don't know if I could trust myself to have the exact same, like, movements every single day. Mm-hmm. Because I just think about the fact that, okay, so, for example, with the truck roll, to be able to meet up with the girl every day, he has to stop at the exact same point, do push-ups, wait, and then roll, and then as he's getting up, do kind of a side roll into a forward roll to avoid getting hit by a tire.
Mm-hmm. I do keep thinking again, because my number one tendency is, isn't there a way to make that more efficient? Like, wouldn't there be... like, I would have tried 5 other ways before I tried that one, probably. Like escaping when you're changing, or in the bathroom, or something else. Like, would there be a better way, less dangerous, to get out of that? But he did probably get good at that motion after a few times, I guess. But still, it's pretty dangerous.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, you just think about, oh, yeah, he made it through, but he probably got run over by a truck at least 3 or 4 times before he made it through.
And when we learned that he could bleed out, that's a dangerous way of doing it then. You know, if his arm got run over, he would have gotten brought to the hospital. So,
oh, yeah.
I loved it when we finally see him meeting up with the few guys from J Squad after he's run off for the day doing training. And he's like, okay, I'm going to close my eyes and do it this time, right? Like, yeah, he's been here many times and knows exactly what's happening. And even I like the part at the end where he knows every single detail of J Squad and all of their personal stories. And I'm wondering, did he spend a day with each of them at one point getting that out? Not to use it later, but just to get to know them almost, right? Was he like, hey, you know, this day I'm going to focus on Griff, and this day I'm going to focus on, you know, what are the others? So is that how he got that information, just to be friends with them? And then, I mean, it is stuff he ends up using later to prove that he's from the future, but...
it's also possible that he just did that because at certain points you see he's trying to save the other members of the squad. So maybe he just spent time with each one because he was sick and tired of seeing them all die over and over again and tried to find ways to save them. And so he would go, no, today I'm going to really tag along with this one and try my best to make sure that they make it through.
He's around so many days, and he still thinks the best soldiers for this trip are J Squad?
I think it's more along the lines of they're the people he knew to go along with him.
Yeah, maybe that's true.
I don't think he could get anyone else.
She doesn't have people that follow her?
Yeah, why doesn't she get her, like, elite squad who all have, like, skulls on their faces and whatnot?
Yeah, I was wondering that too. Like, obviously, she got them to ship. Yeah, I think you're probably right, though. These are the people that he can get along with and that he could bring.
Yeah, because I think that's it, is everybody else I don't think he could convince to, hey, we're going to go on a night run to the middle of this other area when all the rest of the world thinks that we should be fighting over here. Yeah, no, I don't see that happening. I do like the fact that you can tell how often he's been through certain scenes when he's just like, all right, let's run through this real quick. You have 2 fingers behind your back. Yeah.
We always watch him through the first time, like, they're explaining. Yeah, I guess it's funny because then you realize that he's going to be going through this again tomorrow, or maybe he's skipping some of this and moving on to other parts. But
Yeah.
it is interesting what he chooses to do sometimes.
Well, I mean, that's probably part of what he's doing is he's going, okay, so that didn't really work out too great yesterday, but if I do this instead of this...
Yeah, because when they are going through that montage of planning where they're going to go, I think that map changes significantly sometimes, right?
Oh, yeah.
You're like, okay, now we're going to start a whole new tack. We're going to go this way now.
Yeah, because let's say you're going down a path, and you suddenly realize this always ends with you dying. Okay, well, what if we veer off this direction? Okay, that ends with you dying. And then you realize that if you reach this certain point, no matter which direction you go in, you're going to die. You then have to, like, take 20 steps back to start dealing with a previous path. Also, just to keep in mind, how many times did they have to run the beach before they could finally get to at least the opportunity to getting a car?
And how convenient is it that these cars have their keys in them?
You don't keep your keys in your car?
No, I don't. I don't keep my keys in my car unlocked.
Especially not, like, above the, what was it? It was above the mirror.
Yeah, above the visor. Yeah. I mean, Japan's a safe country, and sometimes I realize that I had left my car unlocked all night. But no, I don't leave my keys in my car.
Well, then I have to think of a new plan to take your car.
Yeah, you're going to need to come up with a new plan.
Drat. What will I ever do?
Going back to some of the other media, this does mirror Groundhog Day, and Star Trek has a Next Gen episode and a Discovery episode that both do these, and I like all 3 of those as well. I think they all do it very well.
Oh, yeah. That and the other media I was going to actually do was there's a very small connection, but there is a game out there called The Surge, which actually deals with a lot of people in basically the mech suits that they have that they're basically like strapping themselves into. It's that sort of idea is everybody is walking around in that kind of mech suit in that game for various reasons. But not everything goes hunky-dory in that game, but as you can possibly imagine.
One of the other things about the actors, I think that, well, now I keep calling her Mary Poppins, but that's because I saw Mary Poppins recently. Oh, what's her name? Goodness. Oh, Emily Blunt, yeah. Emily Blunt did a great job in this movie. I thought she was very good too. And I think one of the only real disappointing things is that basically she's like half Tom Cruise's age.
Yeah.
I mean, she's basically our age, and Tom Cruise is basically almost 20 years older than us.
Yeah.
I do like that. Her nickname never gets completely said ever in the whole movie. But you know exactly what it is.
Because it's been on a big sign.
It was printed on the bus, wasn't it?
It was printed on the bus the entire time.
Oh, that's right, that's right. It was printed on the bus, but nobody ever gets to completely say it out loud. They always get coughed or cut or something.
Yeah, so that's how he wakes up every morning, is looking at that sign. Which, that's got to be interesting, where you wake up to this sign of this person who you're basically going to be seeking out in a little bit.
Oh, and I love the first question she asks him is, when did you die? I'm standing in front of you. When did you die?
Yeah.
Oh, I died tomorrow on the beach.
I died tomorrow. Yeah. It's a massacre, isn't it? Yep.
I want to know how often he let her drive away with the trailer attached.
Or he says it every time, and she still does it every time.
Exactly.
And he knows she's going to do it, and he continues to say it simply so that he can be like, really? You're still doing this? Every time?
I do like also that he guesses to get more info. Like when they're in the car, he says her middle name is Audrey or whatever.
Yeah.
And then she finally tells it to him at the end. But like I feel like he's just gonna go fishing. You know, I'm gonna try to get some more information out and see what happens.
Well, I mean, at that point, he is playing up the how often have we had this conversation kind of card, and she's just trying to guess how many times they've talked about that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I did find it interesting that Rita is always seen with this giant sword.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That she uses like twice in the movie at all. So this weapon that she's seen on all the posters using is barely ever used.
She uses it a bit to slash mimics, I guess.
But yeah, it's like at the very beginning.
Yeah, but then why didn't she carry it with her to the farmhouse, right? That's the perfect time to use it when her guns are out of ammo.
Mm-hmm.
So why did she have it there?
I just pulled up the IMDb, and first of all, 71 Metacritic.
Yeah. So on the good side.
Yeah.
And actually 7.9 stars, so it's highly rated there too. Yeah, the director, Doug Liman, directed Bourne Identity, the very first one.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not too far away from the action stuff.
So for me, part of the thing that I think about is how aggravating it would have to be to realize this is happening to you before you realize that there's any way for anyone else to believe you.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just think about the scene where he goes, all right, I know this is going to sound crazy, but... and then he ends up getting, like, strapped in and his mouth duct taped and...
Mm-mm-mm.
And all these different things where they're just like, nah, he's just going crazy.
Right, especially in the situation where he's in, right? Because it sounds like everything he's saying is trying to get out of what he's been placed in.
Yeah, because a lot of that comes down to the fact that he's stuck in that role because he made the wrong general very upset.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It was a little hand-wavy with the time, but for example, what determines the beginning of the day?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's when he wakes up there. That wasn't any part of a beginning of the day. When he wakes up there, he would have been just out of the general's office for about, what, half an hour?
Or, especially with the ending, when he wakes up and it's suddenly almost 2 days ago at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So why is that suddenly happening?
Mm-hmm. Would have been nice to have it a little clearer, but maybe that's just persnickety.
The only one thing that I kind of laughed a little bit about was opening scenes when they were talking about like dealing with this alien threat. There was one shot of Hillary Clinton in some sort of international meeting. And it's only because I can tell who that is that I go, So the ending?
Yeah, so the ending.
Or is there something I'm forgetting?
Let's do the ending. I think one of the things I'm trying to figure out is, do you think it would have been better if it just ended when he blew up the Omega? And maybe we see a celebration of everyone else, as opposed to him being thrown back further into the past. Because now he has all his rank and stuff.
Honestly, I think I would have been happy with the hero sacrifice there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I get why they did it, because it's hard to have a Hollywood movie where the guy doesn't get the girl at the end.
Yes. Even in watching this one again, I expected the romance to be a little bit too easy again. Like, oh, come on, how come? But I do like that she never really does fall in love with him, except in the very last loop.
And in that very last loop, it isn't really her falling in love with him. It is, you're a good person, and I wish I could get to know you better, is her exact line.
Yes, I don't think the romance was too heavy-handed. So I am pleased with that on my rewatch. I was like, oh man, I remember there being a romance, and I'm like, how can they really love each other? It's only been one day.
Also, can I just be honest that idea of you've experienced the day, but the other person, your partner, has not? Oh my gosh, that would have to be the worst kind of thing because you've grown attached to them. You've got some sort of depth of a relationship with them, and they have no idea who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if you had lived the past year getting to know your wife, and she suddenly had no idea who you were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would be very interesting.
Because you would have certain like ways that you talk to her, ways that you treat her because of the relationship that you've built up, but in her mind you're starting from scratch. And I think that is a hard thing to deal with, a hard relationship dynamic that I don't think that an hour and a half, 2-hour movie can't really give it that justice.
Mm-hmm. Even at the end, I think he does like her. He's definitely grown attached to her. But they don't play too much that it's a romance.
You can tell he has feelings for her.
Right.
But we come back to the fact that they've been supporting each other through this, and yet he's had to watch her die over and over again.
Right. He's been in extremely emotional states with her all the time.
Yeah.
So he's definitely got a connection. And that's understandable.
But then again, you come to, what's the effect called? Suspension bridge effect. Where because you're constantly in states of fear and closeness with death, that you also confuse the emotions that you're feeling with feelings of affection. And so there's also that mixed in with everything else.
Mm-hmm.
I do have to say, after watching all of this, I really do want to read the book and see what the differences are. See if the characters are the same. See if the ending is the same. Because I think that seems like a very Hollywood ending to me. And so part of my feeling is the ending of the book is probably not as positive.
Yeah, I wonder too.
Because, yeah, that's the thing, is it feels very Hollywood ending to me. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but I would have been fine with him having the hero sacrifice ending.
Yeah, Rita died, he died, they all die.
They all die, but they save the world. Okay.
But then we see the celebration the world has, and nobody knows. I mean, even at the end of the way that is presented, nobody knows how they all died. And even if he and Rita tell them what happened, nobody's going to believe them.
Yeah, no, honestly, I think it could have been they all die, and because they went AWOL and the energy surge came from where the last known location of their craft was, they could then extrapolate and be like, oh, they saved us all, and probably the general would keep that under his hat and tell no one. But he would always know.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I could get behind that kind of ending. Maybe a few other people knowing, but actually, I don't think I would get behind that ending because the general was too much of a...
Yeah. Well, I think he would have attributed it to Rita Vertasky, right?
Oh, yeah.
He wouldn't have attributed it to the Major or J Squad at all.
No. He would have given it totally to Rita.
Because he still doesn't know or care much about Private Cage.
Well, Major.
Yeah, well.
Which timeline were you going with?
When he went to Paris, he was still a private at that point. I do think that if I didn't enjoy the repetition as much,
mm-hmm.
the ending would have stood out worse to me.
Mm.
But because I enjoy the repetition so much, I am willing to forgive the ending a little bit.
I'm willing to forgive the ending, but I still, like I said, I still feel like it feels very Hollywood ending.
Yeah, I think in some ways we need more movies with sad endings.
See, I think for me, I would like movies with sad endings or bad endings as long as there is a shred of hope somewhere in the world.
Mm.
Maybe not with the main characters. Main characters might be dead, that's fine. But if there is a shred of hope, I think I'm happy. All in all, though, I really did enjoy it. I thought it was an excellent movie. It was a very interesting world they created.
Well, I'm glad you liked this movie. It was a good one.
I really did like the movie. It was a lot of fun.
It has good humor in a few spots. So.
Oh yeah, it has some good humor in a few spots. Like I said, the roll under a truck and hear a little
Yeah.
and then the what was he trying to do?
Yep.
I thought it was an excellent movie. Hold up here. I just saw something that might be interesting. Edge of Tomorrow 2 has been announced.
There's a new one coming out? Yeah, I saw that too. I do wonder what that's going to be.
Although they did miss a good opportunity there. Could have just been Edges of Tomorrow.
Well, it says here, live, die, repeat, and repeat. is what.
Well, this says Edge of Tomorrow 2.
Oh, okay.
Or Edge of Tomorrows. That could have been one.
How can they do another sequel? They need those aliens to do the sequel.
They can still do the sequel. You see, all you have to do is say, oh, yes, you beat the Omega, but that was just one Omega.
Or, if he had the power of the Alpha when he had the Alpha's blood in him, he now has the Omega's blood in him. So does he have the power of the Omega in now? Like, could he reset any day?
So are you saying that he is now the Alpha and the Omega?
No, but if he can reset the day, I don't know. Yeah, you're right. The Alpha had the ability to reset the day. What is Omega's power? I don't know. But maybe they're playing off that.
They compared the Omega to, like, the brain. So, I don't know.
I don't know either. We'll have to see. But I am a little bit skeptical.
What are you talking about? Sequels always go great.
Yes, sequels always go great, right?
I mean, that's what they always say about Aladdin 2.
I haven't even seen Aladdin 2.
Aladdin 2 was not good. And I will fully admit that and tell everyone that they should just skip Aladdin 2. Aladdin 3 wasn't bad, but Aladdin 2, skip that one.
Yeah, I've shown my kids Aladdin 3. I haven't shown them Aladdin 2.
Well, that's because they didn't get the right genie. They didn't get Robin Williams for number 2. So number 2 is non-canonical in my book, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for some of the things in number 3 then, but still, non-canonical. Mics pick up the best sound when you have your back to them.
Yeah, that's the way the phrase goes.
Yeah, yes.